while since you saw my face. Haven't been doing that great, so I took a little break. A lot of people saying things about me that are not quite true. Doesn't matter if they're true though, as long as they're entertaining to you. Right? You guys having fun? All aboard the toxic gossip train. I'm just kidding. That's not what I'm talking about here today. There's no allegations against me right now that I know of. All aboard. Oh. Hi. So, you're probably wondering what the heck this is. If you don't understand what that whole musical number was about, it's because of this chick. So what is this video you just clicked on? Well, essentially it's going to start with Colton being kind of nervous because he doesn't know what it is either. And it's just going to be Colton telling a story and treating this iPhone as if it's a therapy session. It's probably going to be kind of a long video. It's kind of a long story and I've been going through a lot recently. So that's what you can expect. Just Colton kind of pouring his heart out to you and just telling a story that you didn't ask to hear, but it's here being told. And there is some editing. I can kind of edit, so there's a little less ums and silences. That's what you're about to get into. So, nervous Colton in the park, take it away. Hi. I don't really know why I'm making this video, because there's not really a target audience here, but there's just some things that I need to say. Some things that I've been going through. I've been going through it. How the kids say. Maybe it's more for myself why I'm making this, like a one-on-one therapy session with an iPhone. Let's see. I'm just going to tell this kind of like a story. April, I found a mouse in my room. That's how this story starts. And I was like, wow, that's bad. So I tore my room apart looking for this mouse. Like moving all my furniture around. I'm like, okay. Eventually I did find the mouse. It's dead. But during that time I started to get some really bad like neck pain. Like really bad. Like 8 out of 10. Awful neck pain. So I went to the urgent care. And the person I saw, I remember her name, Jessica Sabetse, physician's assistant certified. She looked at me and said, purely muscular, you probably strained your neck. Or sprained your neck, one of the two. And so she gave me like the bare minimum of muscle relaxers, which was garbage. They did not help. So I said, okay, fine. Just kind of went about with my pain. She told me just to bed rest. And for about a month I bed rested, just did nothing but lay there. And it did actually get better. So that was good. But then during that time, I started getting some other symptoms. I got the pain in my neck got worse again after that, even worse than it was before. And then my right arm was just, I noticed it was getting really weak. I was like, that's weird. That's really weird. And my hand was, I couldn't write. It's like I wasn't able to write anymore. I took more time off of work. And what I thought happened was I herniated a disc. Like in your spine, you got these little jelly-filled donut discs in between each vertebrae that like keep compression down. And you can like blow them, and it causes spinal stenosis, and it can cause a lot of pain and a lot of problems. So came back worse and with these more symptoms. So I went to a nurse practitioner, and he said, yeah, I've got no clue what's going on, so we need to set up an appointment with a physical therapist, a neurosurgeon, or a neurologist. Say one of the two would work, and then physical therapy to like get my neck moving, because it was it was stuck forward and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move it. Awful pain. So neurosurgeon appointment or neurologist appointment was scheduled all the way out to 2024. And that was not going to do. Physical therapy appointment scheduled all the way out to July, and this will happen in April, so I have to wait a few months. And debilitating pain, couldn't do anything. And then the MRI was, I don't remember, it was a few months out too, so that just wasn't going to do. So then during this time, I started to notice that my left side didn't feel temperature. Hot or cold. You could put like an ice cube on like the left side of my torso, and all I feel is touch, not cold or hot, anything like that. So my right side was getting progressively weak, and my left side wasn't feeling temperature. I'm like, this is something else. I've never felt anything like this. And it felt really numb too, which is kind of another weird symptom. So my dad helped me out here because I'm not going to wait years or months and just be like how I am now, progressively getting worse until someone can help me. So he called a whole bunch of different places, and eventually I got an appointment with a physical therapist. And they just kind of saw me like, yeah, he's messed up. I'm like, yeah, I sure am. And they just started kind of working me on my neck, and they gave me all these exercises to do at home, and I was doing them every day. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. But eventually, we called and I got an MRI scheduled. And let me tell you, if you've never got an MRI done, it is an experience. They put you in this little tube. Like, I'm a small guy, and there was not much space for me to fit in there. They give me earplugs, and I get in this tube, and this machine is stupid loud. Like, it's like a shotgun blast going all over your head. And they put your head on this little plastic thing, which my neck and my head were hurting so bad, so that was great to feel. And so you're just laying in this machine and just and I'm like, I just cannot believe that this is my life right now. Like, I'm just so weak and in so much pain, and I'm in an MRI machine right now. And I was just like thinking, man, I'm going to get better, and I'm going to make more friends at work, and I'm going to take my girlfriend to Santa Fe, and we're going to have a great time, and I'm going to become a better person out of this. So I MRI'd it up, and they said they would have information within like a few days. Around this time, my swallowing just started to not work. I couldn't swallow anymore. I could swallow like the smallest amounts of like water or food, and it was bad. I just wasn't able to eat a lot. So I went back to the physical therapist, and he started to do some more tests. I told him I had an MRI done. He picked up my right leg, and during this time my right leg would do this little bouncy thing, which I didn't really think too much of, but he did that to me, and it started going do 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 do. Like when you get nervous and like your leg starts to bounce, like you have a test or something in class and just like bouncing around. That was happening to me, but it was like really, really bad and really quick, and I was doing it on purpose. So he pulled it up, and it's called clonus. That's the name of that symptom. It's a neurological symptom. He looked at that. He's like, "Oh no, I'll be back." And I was like, "That's not what you want to hear from someone that's taking care of you." He came back and he said, "Okay, so I don't want to scare you, but I think you have some kind of tumor in your brain or in your spinal cord." Not great. That was his opinion. So then he pulled up this thing on like WebMD or something, and it's this rare neurological disorder called Brown-Séquard syndrome. And it's characterized by one side of the body gets weak and then paralyzed, then one side of the body doesn't feel temperature or pain. And that was exactly where I was. Like, exactly. That's the symptoms I had. And it's extremely rare. Usually it happens to people that get like gunshots or like they're stabbed in like the spinal cord. And the spinal cord, so I used to think the spinal cord was just like the bones, but it's more than that. So you got your brain, then you got your brain stem, and then you got your spinal cord that runs in your spine, and it kind of floats in this cerebral spine fluid. It's like the mother of your nerves, like the width of your finger, and it goes through, and it's where all your movement and sensations, they go through your spinal cord to reach your brain. So I'm like, wow, that's not good at all. I'm like, okay, let's not tell mom because she's going to freak out. But that day, I come back home and my phone starts to ring. And I answer it, and it's my nurse practitioner, and he says, oh, so we found a little something in the images. We need to set up that appointment with a neurosurgeon so we can see what it is, because we still don't know what it is. And it's like, okay, appreciate it. Then I get a message that says that the images, or the findings are available, and I'll put it up if I can. In there it says, yeah, you've got 3 masses, 1 in the brainstem, 2 in the spinal cord. We don't know if it's cancer or what the heck it is, but there's things in there, and they're bleeding. They have a hemorrhage. So that's that's kind of scary, and I just kind of started freaking out a little bit. Mom started crying, Dad started freaking out, Ryan started crying, my brother. It was like, wow, I've got some freaking tumors. I might have cancer. Like, this is my time, I guess. I am freaking out a little bit, you know. And so I go out to my car and I call my girlfriend. And I just kind of say, hey, and I'm crying because I'm a little baby boy. And I'm just saying, hey, if you don't, this is probably looking pretty bad. It's either going to be a very, very long recovery time to go through this, or I've got the big C cancer, and that's going to be the end of me. So you don't have to stay here through me if you don't want to. Through all this if you don't want to. Because her dad died of cancer a while back, and I didn't really want to put her through that again, you know? I don't know. That was... Imagine, like, the hate you have against the world, you know? Like, 2 people you love about die of cancer, and you gotta, like, deal with it twice. Like, that's just... And you're so young. You're 22 years old, and that happens. So, yeah, I didn't want her to go through that, but she said, hey, don't worry about it. We're gonna get through this. And I was like, okay. Let's get through this. And the next morning, I actually realized that the images were there, too, and I'll put those up. So the images were, yeah, it looks like there's these big 3 wads of gum inside my brainstem and in my spinal cord. So it's kind of freaky. So we recognize that the next step is I need to get surgery. I need to get those things taken out because they don't know what they still. Well, things they still don't know what they are, but it was understood that they need to be taken out. So we start calling up neurosurgeons, and there's like very, very, very few neurosurgeons here in New Mexico. So eventually my dad, he keeps calling places, and he gets lucky to find another neurosurgeon. And he says, okay, we'll see you in a couple of days. Then in between that time, they need another MRI. That's another fun story. They need another MRI for me because they need to inject like this dye into me and take pictures of me with like the dye because it like reflects better than MRI, and it's so they can hopefully find out what the heck is inside me. So they do that. I go to this place, and this MRI place had music. So they put, instead of earplugs, they put these little muffs over my ears, and they say, hey, guy, what kind of music do you like? I'm like, you know what? I love me some Linkin Park. And so in the worst quality, it was like a Pandora station, the worst quality, like Linkin Park was playing. And it was just so funny. And then there'd be an ad, and then it'd be like, wake me up inside, can't wake me up and save me. And it's just like, man, this is so funny. I'm in like so much pain. I'm in this tube that's beeping, and singing these like meme songs to me. I just had to laugh, and that's kind of a staple in what's been going on. Because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So I always thought that was funny. that was playing while I'm in this horrible situation. We get to a neurosurgeon, Dr. Mark Berninski. Go into his office. He has the images. He says, "Yeah, don't know what the heck that is. Never seen anything like that before, but it is bleeding. So, what you need to do is you need to, within the next 24 hours, go to the Barrows Neurological Institute in Phoenix, Arizona. You need to go to the emergency room and tell them that Dr. Porter, who's a neurosurgeon, is going to take you in and operate on you." So, right then and there, Mom starts crying, Dad starts crying. I'm like, oh man, this is getting even worse. These people can't help me, and I have to go to like this specialized place to figure out what the heck's going on. So that's what we do. I go home. Ryan, he books me and my dad a flight to fly to Phoenix. I start getting everything in order. Oh, and he also gives me codeine. Appreciate it. Needed that. No one gave me any painkillers before that. I was just on Tylenol. Well, actually, that's not true. My nurse practitioner gave me these little muscle relaxers, and guess what? Ladies, you win. I'm on antidepressants. So, got some of those too. But finally, get some codeine, some painkillers for what I'm going through, and we go to the airport. I get on a plane. I don't know if you know this about me, but I am terrified of planes. Insult to injury. Had to get on a plane. We take off, and pilot says, "All right, we're expecting a very, very bumpy ride today." And I'm like, God. Every little bump in a car ride made me want to cry. So every bump in the air, while I'm already terrified, was even worse. So felt really good about that. And then we hit some birds in the air too. All the stewardess, the sky waitresses were talking about, yeah, we just hit like a flock of geese or something. I'm like, this is a bad sign, because I'm already having a bad time, and that sounds even worse. But in about an hour or so, we land in Phoenix, Arizona. So we have made it to Phoenix. I land at the, what's it called? The Skyport, I think it's called, in Arizona, Phoenix. And my aunt picks me and my dad up to go to the hospital, because she lives there. My dad's from Arizona originally. So get to the emergency room, and holy crap, did no one know what was going on. And this emergency room was disgusting. There was like flickering lights, and not to be judging, but there was a lot of people that were users of certain medications, you could say, that were in there because they were tweaking out. There's like people tweaking out and people throwing up all over the place, and no one apparently heard that I was coming. So that was cool. And my dad was flipping out. He was yelling and screaming, and yeah, he caused a big ruckus. Almost got us kicked out, which was probably be the worst thing for me right now. And at this time, I forgot to mention, my right arm didn't move, and I couldn't walk at this point. I was in a wheelchair. I was essentially paralyzed on the right side, just as the Brown-Séquard syndrome said I would be. So I was. Eventually, my dad causes enough of a ruckus that one lady comes down and is like, "What is going on?" And so he explains it to her, and then eventually they find someone that has heard about it, that I was coming for this surgery. Well, essentially right after that, I get taken back into the emergency room, and they're like, "Okay, guess what? Another MRI." I'm like, okay, cool. So I get wheeled in for another MRI at this new place. And this MRI machine was even better. Their Linkin Park was actually really, really pretty good quality. For being in a machine that, like, you can't have metal in, because it's magnetic resonance imaging. It allowed some metal in. Like, I was wheeled in, like, in a bed which was like made of metal. It's like non-ferrous metal, but weird. I guess it's a specialized machine. It's like the only one in the United States. So they wheel me in and they take some more images of my brain, brainstem, and spinal cord. Just to kind of, they have their own images. They take me back to my little cubby in the emergency room. And they're like, okay, so we're going to take you to the ICU because you might die. It's kind of the context of what they were having here, because they don't know what the heck it is. They know it's bleeding. I need to be monitored 24/7. Every single minute, someone has to be watching me. So I go to the ICU. They finally start to give me like oxycodone and stuff, which finally, a little bit of relief. Still in a lot of pain, stupid amounts of pain. But I've got something for me going on. In the ICU, being watched all the time, having to pee in these little bottles and poop in a pan. That's a lot of fun, by the way. If you've never done that before, appreciate all of you that are nurses, because it's kind of like a scenario like, I bet you don't want to do it and I don't want to do it, but we have to do it. So we're here together in that. Then eventually, because the Barrows Neurological Institute is a teaching hospital, a group of students come in and they hear that I have symptoms of the Brown-Séquard syndrome, which I guess it's kind of like a gotcha question on a lot of like tests that they do in medical school or something like that, because they just like couldn't believe that they actually had like a real example of it. And I'm it. They hear about all the symptoms on their textbooks and stuff, but so they come in and they're like, hey, can we like poke and prod you a little bit? I'm like, heck yeah, bro. Come on in. There's like 8 people. They're like testing all like, you can feel this? I'm like, no. And they're like, you can't feel this? I'm like, no, I sure can't. And like, you can't move? I'm like, no, sure can't move. Right side can't move. And they're, I don't know, something with your fingers and the clonus thing. They were very excited to see me with this disorder. So that was kind of funny. Glad I could show some students what this rare disorder thing looks like. So we do that. And then eventually Dr. Porter, who is the neurosurgeon, he's actually the neurosurgeon for the Arizona Cardinals. He's like their personal like brain guy who helps them with all that stuff. He comes in, and this guy's like a TV doctor. Like, if you ever watch Friends, like Joey's Dr. Dracomore, he was like the same thing. He's like, hello, I'm Dr. Porter. I'm like, yes, you are. You sure are. And he's like, yeah, so we looked at your MRIs and your symptoms, and we don't know what it is. So he's like, all right, I can't do this surgery, so we're going to have Lawton do your surgery. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, who's Lawton? He's like, oh, Lawton is the president and CEO of the Barrows Neurological Institute. He gets all of the weird stuff. That's me, I'm stuff. I'm weird stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is getting even worse. This is getting pretty bad. So he says that, and surgery was supposed to be in a couple of days. It ends up not being a couple of days. They're like, okay, we actually need to do this other test. We need to do what's called an angiogram on you. So what they're going to do to you is they're going to cut a hole in your groin, access your femoral artery, slice it open, and they're going to stick a catheter tube in your body, through your body, up into your neck and into your brain. And doing that, they're going to shoot dye and then take like 10 x-rays a second at your face. So that sounds pretty safe. And they're like, oh yeah, it's not that bad a procedure. They're going to give you like twilight anesthesia, so you're barely going to know what's going to happen. Let's do it. Let's get some angiogram in here. They wheel me into this room, a whole bunch of procedure surgeon guys. I guess they're surgeons. They did a procedure. They strap, I'm naked, by the way. I'm like a naked man on this table who can't move, and his neck. By the way, my neck still hurts so bad. Like, nothing made it go away. Nothing. And they strapped me in my arms down to this table, and my legs down to this table, and my head down to this table. And they gave me a little bit of morphine. And morphine to me, I don't know why, just doesn't do anything. I had appendicitis before, and they gave me morphine. It is just not the drug for me. It just does not help. So they make this little cut in the groin area, and they go, whoop, and they shove this little catheter tube in there, and
they're pushing it through my leg into my brain. And they're like, okay, you're going to feel some warmth in the left side of your face. And then 20 x-rays gets taken at my face. And so they keep doing it. And it's really cool because I can actually see the screen that they're looking at where all the x-rays are being taken. And it looks like out of a movie. It's like, if you've ever played like The Last of Us, like the opening cinematic where like all the spores are growing, that's what it looked like.
Number of confirmed deaths has passed 200. The governor has called a state of emergency.
There were hundreds and hundreds of bodies lining the streets.
And I was like, that's crazy. It's like, oh, left side of your face. And it's like, now your right elbow is gonna, I don't know, something stupid like that. It's gonna feel warm. And they take it out, take this little catheter thing out of my femoral artery, and then I instantly feel a lot of warmth and a lot of wetness going down there. Again, I'm all tied down, and they start scrambling. They're like grabbing gauze and towels and all this kinds of stuff. They're freaking out a little bit because I'm bleeding, I guess, pretty heavily. And I just had to say, like, hey guys, have you ever watched the movie Black Hawk Down? This is just like that one scene where the soldier gets shot. Soldier gets shot.
All right, let me get a look at that.
And he's bleeding out his femoral artery, and they start laughing, but they're kind of freaking out too. So I had to laugh at it. And then eventually, like, one of the procedural guys gets this like tool, this metal tool, and the best way I can describe it is like a ratchet, like a socket wrench, and he put like the end in, and then all of his weight starts pushing down on the injury. Well, the incision he made, and that is probably the worst pain I dealt with the entire time. I don't know why. They said it was going to be pretty painless. It was not painless. It was extremely painful. So he's just like pushing on this wound, and I'm like laying down, and I'm like convulsing and shaking, and there's like tears rolling down me, and my teeth are chattering. And he looks at the guy next to me like, hey man, give him some more morphine. And the guy giving the morphine said, hey, I already gave him all I can give him. I gave him the maximum amount. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, look, man, don't worry about me up here. Everything that's happening up here is just a reaction. You worry about me bleeding out on your table right now. He puts this, like, device in me, like stent device that's supposed to cut the bleeding down, patches it up, and he's like, all right, you can't move for the next 4 hours or else you're going to bleed out. I'm like, okay, cool, I won't. They wheeled me back to my room, and I'm pretty bleedy, very bleedy, in a lot of pain. And then the nurse says, all right, you ready for some fentanyl? And I'm like, fentanyl? You mean the stuff that kills people all the time? Like, it's not like that. We give it correctly. I'm like, okay, fentanyl me up. And let me just say, if you're going to get addicted to a drug, get addicted to fentanyl, because that stuff worked. Just kidding. Stuff worked for me. Very, very good painkiller. They like brought my pain down to like a 3, which 3 is manageable. So fentanyl and oxycodone and Tylenol and muscle relaxers and a whole bunch of different medicines put together, I'm somewhere to where we can be cool. And eventually the news comes like, all right, so that test, the angiogram we just did, was to see if you had like a venous bleed, which is like, I guess, like a bigger bleed, so when they cut it out they'll know. I'm like, all right, it's not that, it's something else. We still don't know what the heck it is. It's either cancer or this thing called cavernous malformation. One of the two. We're gonna find out when we get in there. So yeah, that was the angiogram. Oh, they gave me this condom thing that I could pee into. So they put this condom on me. It has a little tube to a bag, and you just pee and it goes in this bag. Don't recommend that, because guess what? The condom failed on me. Remember, kids, not 100% effective condoms. So condoms don't work for me. Peed, and I peed all over myself, so that was very cool. But yeah, that was the angiogram. Now I'm just spending a lot more time in the ICU.
So basically at this point, I am just having a vacation in the neurological ICU. Just kind of having a good time, I guess. Talking with the nurses. This was about, I don't know, probably like a week I was there before surgery. They always said I had a good outlook, which I kind of had to, because if I don't, then what do I have? Did the best I could, really. Kept my head up a little bit. it's kind of interesting because a lot of the nurses were basically my age. So a lot of my acquaintances, the same age as you. Appreciate all of you nurses out there. Yeah, I would just kind of tell them about like my girlfriend, what I do back home, like high school friends and all that. And that's kind of just what I did for a while, hang out. Eventually, my mom and my brother, they came and drove up to Phoenix. So that was kind of cool. Everyone came to come see Colton get under the knife. It was getting closer to surgery. And one thing they loved to do was just to give me laxatives. They were giving me like 3 different types of laxatives. Because they're like, oh, you haven't gone to the bathroom? I'm like, no. Oh, well, we need to give you laxatives. The thing was, remember, my swallowing wasn't working right. So I wasn't eating, so I didn't have anything to, expel. But they didn't seem to care about that. So they just kept giving me laxatives, and it made me so sick, like all the time. Like 3 different laxatives 3 times a day. It was awful. I did not enjoy that at all. And then here comes time for surgery. Or the night before, I'm just kind of watching my favorite show, Impractical Jokers. Joe, Q, Mur, Sal, thanks guys, kept me a little bit more sane. Just sat there that night looking at the TV, and I called the people close to me and said, hey, te amo, we're gonna go into this surgery, and next time you hear from me, I'm going to be out of surgery, and I'll know if I have cancer or what's going on here. And you don't get a lot of sleep in the ICU. Every hour they wake you up and like, hey, what's your name? Where are you? This and that. Because I guess I'm being watched. I'm being watched all the time. There's a window all the time watching me. But I guess they just want to make sure your brain, your cognitive ability isn't decreasing. So they have to ask you these questions every hour, 24/7. So you don't get a lot of sleep. So that's a little bit annoying. In the morning, they wake me up at like 7 o'clock. And they say, all right, it's time for surgery. And they give me like this little sponge bath to make me clean. They take me down to pre-op. And they kind of explain what it's going to be. It's going to be this surgery. They're going to go in through my neck. And they're going to remove 2 pieces of my vertebrae. And then they're going to hope they don't have to cut into the spinal cord. And they're going to try to remove the tumors in there. It'll be like a 2-year recovery window for this. And they said it's very likely I'll be put on a ventilator after surgery. It's an intubation, they get the tube down the throat, breathe for you and all that. And that during that time they're going to be like yelling at me to like move my arms and my hands, because I'll be conscious of it, but I'll be like kind of low. So that was a little bit scary, because they're like your brainstem is going to swell quite a bit after the surgery, and your brainstem controls your breathing and your heart beating. We're going to have to keep you under some close watch, so just be aware that you're probably going to be intubated after your surgery. So when you wake up, that's when it's going to be. So I'm pre-op, and I text my girlfriend, love her, all that. And the anesthesiologist was, all right, here's some anti-anxiety medicine. Let's go. So he gives me a little bit of anti-anxiety medication, and he rolls me into a room of like 30 people in like scrubs and the covers and the big gloves and all that. While I'm going, I'm really thankful. I'm really grateful, because I'm like, wow, I'm finally going to get something here. So I'm just like thanking everyone for taking the challenge, because like they still don't know what the heck is in there. So they're going in blind. They don't know what the heck they're getting into here. And just, thanking all of them for what they're going to do for me here. And he says, all right, breathe this. He puts it over my mouth, and I close my eyes for a second. And then I jolt up. And I hear, okay, you're done. And I'm like, I'm done? I don't think you've done anything. But no, I was done. The anesthesia worked pretty well. And it was like I think a 6 to 8 hour surgery. I was in there. And here's the good news. That tumor in there, not cancer. I did not have cancer. I had what's called a cavernous malformation. Basically, there's a mutation in your blood capillaries where it finds a spot and just starts growing and winding up until it creates this big ball of capillaries that can cause problems to some people. Most of the time, it doesn't cause any problems. It's like a 5% chance it'll cause problems, but for me, it caused a lot of problems. So I'm in the post-op room. I remember like my parents and my brother and my aunts and my uncles coming in a little bit. Kind of funny. Like they said I said a lot of stuff, but I don't remember at all. So I hope I don't embarrass myself too much. I remember they came in. They gave me this like foam thing, like, and they put it in my mouth and like, this is your cigar. And I was completely lucid. I'm like, heck yeah, it's my cigar. I'm like big boss from Metal Gear Solid now. I'm gonna be strong with my cool cigar. And so I held that in my mouth for a long time. So I just kind of sat lay down the post-op, coming down from the anesthesia, and this guy was just watching me this entire time. And he really liked me for some reason. Watching me, he's like, hey, you want some more fentanyl? I'm like, yeah. And so he gives me more fentanyl, and I'm just kind of, you know, coming down from it, coming off, still kind of feeling kind of weird. And then I feel something between the legs, a little tug, and I ask him, I say, hey, do I have a catheter in right now? And he said, you sure do. And I'm like, no, why? I had a catheter before at my last surgery for my appendix, but they took it out before I woke up. And so I knew the time was coming that he's gonna take that out of me, and I was gonna cry. Eventually he went to lunch, and a little lady came, and she was not very attentive. But eventually he came back, and he rolled me back up to the ICU after a little bit. Once I got back up is when I don't know, it started to get to me. I was in a lot of pain at that point. And I don't know, emotions of kind of like, this is my life, and I was just really sad. Yeah, but I wasn't intubated after surgery. But I didn't know where my legs were or my arm, and I was completely paralyzed on the right side now. Nothing. I couldn't move at all over there. All that kind of just kind of got to me there, and started crying. And the nurse that was up there in the ICU was really, really kind. I don't remember her name, but she gave me fentanyl and just kind of stood by my side and like consoled me while I was crying. So I really appreciate her. She also got me pudding through the night and all kinds of stuff. And so yeah, I was out of surgery. So let me tell you what they did to me in that surgery. First thing they did was stick these rods through both my wrists and through both of my ankles and the bottom of my feet. What those did were and I had these huge bruises I'll try to show you. And I also had 4 IVs in me, 2 in each arm. Those rods were stuck through the nerves to kind of like see damages. Because what they did have to do, they did have to cut open the spinal cord, which is kind of a big no-no. Because it's the mother of all your nerves. You don't want to cut it open if you don't have to. But they did. They had to cut it open. So those rods, I guess they detect electrical impulses. So when they're in there cutting, they know if they're cutting something that's like connected to like my leg or my arm, my walking, my hand or something like that, they know like, oh, we got to be really, really careful on that spot. What they ended up doing was laying me face down on a table, cutting open the skin, slicing through all these muscles, pulling these like tools to pull my neck apart, and then sawed the back of my vertebrae off. The cut's called the lamina. I lost 2 of the back of my vertebrae. They didn't put them back. So if you feel like the back of your head and like your spine feels bumps, I'm missing 2 of those now. There's like a void in my neck. It's really, really strange. Took those out. They cut open the derma, which is like, it's a little skin thing that covers your brain and your spinal cord. And they cut open it and they removed the tumor piecemeal. So piece by piece by piece by piece. Sent it up to a biopsy and confirmed it wasn't cancer. So that's good. Then they sewed my spinal cord back up with these little dissolvable sutures, covered up the wound, glued it. I think they put staples, but they never removed staples. So I don't know if they did for a little bit, then took them out before I even woke up. But there was glue, put them back together, put a thing over it, and yeah, they took out what they could. Surgeon comes in and tells me all that, and he says, okay, so here's the deal. Wasn't cancer. It was this cavernous malformation. We can only get to 2 or 3 of them. There's one in the brainstem that's just, it's in a horrible spot. Like in the bottom of your skull, there's a little hole that your spinal cord goes through and meets your brainstem. In the medulla oblongata is the name of it. It controls your breathing and your heartbeat. It's like the really primal functions of your body for living. Said couldn't get to it. It is in bad spot, too dangerous of a spot. We hope it doesn't cause problems. And the context was, well, if it does cause problems, it won't be your problem anymore because your heart will stop beating and you'll probably stop breathing. So that's not good. That's a good thing to always have in the back of my mind to remember that I've still got one in there, and it's in a really bad spot that can't really get to and controls very important things. Not a fun thought to think about, to always have that in the back of my mind, literally, because it's in the back of my brain. Funny. So yeah, that was that. They told me all that, and I was out of surgery in the post ICU and all that. So spent some more days in the ICU. Occupational therapist, physical therapist tried to get me to move a little bit. They tried to teach me how to get out of bed now. I tried to a little bit. I can't really move my right side all that well. Like I said, I didn't know how it worked. Like I woke up in the morning and my arm would be here and I would go to lift it and just do nothing. I got my first migraine for the first time, which was awful. So they were just fentanyl and oxycodone and all that stuff. Spent some more time in the ICU. They kept watching over me. And then they released me. And now I'm going to go to a rehabilitation facility, Reunion Rehab, in Arizona still. And over there is where I'm going to learn how to walk. Well, relearn how to walk and relearn how to use my arm and my hand and all that. So let's go over to Reunion Rehab. So I am being discharged from St. Joseph's Barreros Neurological Institute to Reunion Rehabilitation. So I get the news, I'm like, that's pretty good. It's been, I think, 3 or 4 days since the surgery. And I guess I'm doing okay. A lot of pain, still paralysis on the right side. All that fun jazz. Eventually, a man comes up with a gurney. He's all right. I'm the ambulance. I'm taking you to rehab. I'm like, all right, dude, let's go. So they pick me up and throw me on this gurney. And when I heard ambulance, I thought ambulance. It was not an ambulance. It was a crappy white van in which it was jerry-rigged to be able to hold a gurney in. So he throws me in the back of his white van. Off I go with a man and a random woman who are just talking to each other the entire time as I'm bouncing around in pain in the back. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I make it to rehab. It's nighttime. They get me acquainted with the whole scenario and tell me, like, yeah, you're going to do 3 hours of physical therapy a day. Like, okay, sounds cool. I'll do whatever it takes to get back to normal. They bring me some enchiladas. Okay, let me just say, first things first about this place. They had an actual kitchen. Like, the food there was like, everything was scratch cook. It was some of the best food I've ever had. And it was 3 meals a day with oatmeal. I really like oatmeal. I'm a big oatmeal guy. The oatmeal there was so good. And I don't know how they did it. But it was so good. Like, amazing. Amazing food. Awesome. 10 out of 10. Should be a restaurant. I'm obviously still in a lot of pain. So they give me a lot of oxycodone. They don't have fentanyl here, though. They took out, I had 4 IVs. Now they took them all out. I'm like, all right, tomorrow we're going to get started. So I wake up and I get started with physical therapy and occupational therapy. And over there is where I relearn how to walk. There was a guy, I can't remember his name now. If I thought about it, I would remember it. But he was in charge of teaching me how to walk. And I used to walk kind of like pigeon-footed. Now he taught me to walk straight. And he would sit there and he would look at me and he would put a mirror down this hospital wall or hallway. And he just said, all right, just focus on making it pretty. So I'd be there with my walker, like an old man, like I am, and I would just try to walk straight. And he would hold me with this little Gucci belt I have, which I still have because I think it looks kind of stylish. It's called a garter belt. Don't remember. There's a lot of physical therapists, occupational therapists. One young girl named Naomi, we would listen to pop punk, like early 2000s pop punk music. And it would just be like, stupid stuff, just trying to get my arm to move and my hand. So after surgery, I realized I couldn't feel my hand, and that was a new thing. Later, what I found out now, reading the report from when they did the surgery, remember I talked about those rods in the wrist? So they had a spike on the right hand. They cut something, and it ruined something in my hand, which sucks because it's my right hand and I'm right-handed. And everything I like to do is I like to work with my hands. Video games, cars, all that stuff. I'm someone who works with his hands a lot. I like to work with my hands. So that's annoying. But yeah, so it would just be like clipping things, and ever so slightly, I got my arm to be able to move. It was stuck to my hip because it didn't move. It would be able to move to about my hip. These little like kids' toys, like clipping things on walls and all kinds of goofy, silly, wacky exercises to get my arm to work. So I was there for, I think, 10 days, just doing that. And all the nurses really liked me because apparently, I was pretty easy to work with because I was cognitively still there. They were dealing with people like stroke patients and people that were given problems. There was one guy that would scream constantly. He would never stop screaming. And he was across the room from mine. He would cuss people out and say nasty, nasty things. So I can see why I was a favorite there. So yeah, I spent a lot of fun time in reunion rehab. Relearned how to walk a little bit. Still had to walk with a walker. And still partially paralyzed. What they came to treat me for was actually quadriplegia. Because technically I had something wrong with all 4 of my limbs that they needed to fix. Eventually they said, all right, you've gotten quite a bit out of what we can do for you here at rehab here. Part of that was probably insurance, not wanting to pay for any more. Because, oh my God, let me just tell you, at the end of this ordeal, I am over $300,000 in debt. More than that. I don't even know. That's just the surgery. This isn't the rehab or all the other doctor's visits, neurosurgery visits, MRIs I had to do. I'm probably quite a bit in debt, but I'm alive. So, cool. So they said, yeah, you've gotten the most out of you that you really can get out of here. You've come a long way a little bit, which it sounds funny because, yeah, I guess I've come a long way, but holy crap, I did not feel normal. My right side was pins and needles. My hand sucked. I still wasn't moving, so they came up with a date and they're going to discharge me. So that was my time with rehab. Got a lot of knowledge about rehabilitation and understanding that, hey, this is gonna be a lot of work. And Dr. Wong, I'm not gonna forget you, because you said that it's super extremely unlikely that I would ever gain back any fine motor skills. It's been a few months, and while I can't feel my hand, I can tie my shoes. I can do buttons. I'm able to sew up holes in my socks. I worked on my car. I changed the transmission oil in my car. Can someone without fine motor skills do that? I'm getting it back. I swear. I'm work 3-4 hours every day getting that back. And all the therapists at the reunion place said, out of all the people I know, you're going to try the hardest. And I was like, you're damn right I am. It's so personal. This is so personal. To lose sensations in your body and to lose movement of your body, it doesn't get more personal than that. It's your body, man. I know it's there are times where I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay down because I'm in just so much pain. Like right now, I've been holding my head up doing this, and my neck hurts so bad. And I've got some other things wrong with my body that I'll talk about a little bit later, but just to see some light and that what I'm doing was right was motivating. And I wanted to prove Dr. Wong wrong. Dr. Wong. And so that's what I've been doing. So they discharged me, got a plane. Oh, and they had tiramisu on the day I left. And I didn't want to eat a lot before I got on a plane because I feel nauseous on planes. So I took a bite of tiramisu. I'm like, it's the best tiramisu I've ever had. And I had to get on a plane. Get a Southwest flight, get in my wheelchair, And this flight's just for me. By the way, my dad's still here. He is staying with me through all this. He never left. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. Really do. I know it was hard for you. It's hard for me because I had to deal with it, but I can imagine watching your son go through. I mean, you have kids. The kids are always your babies. So watching him have a hard time, because this is probably the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. Lose control of my body. And so yeah, he stayed here. Just a flight for me. So got a wheelchair up to a Southwest flight. Sat in the front row. Got on the plane. Listened to Metal Gear Solid theme song to hype myself up as we took off so I wouldn't freak out too bad. And off I went flying back home to Albuquerque. And so I made it home. I wish I had the time for you right now, or how long it took me, but it was like June 12th to like, I don't know, late June. I don't know. It was a few weeks, I think. About three weeks or so, something like that. Long time to be away from home, in a hospital, in the ICU, in a rehabilitation hospital. And finally, I came back. I landed in Albuquerque. My brother and my mom picked me up, and I'm back home now. We'll keep going from here. All right, so I have made it back home, and I forgot to mention at this point, my swallowing, remember, it was like not working all that great. It started to get a little bit better now. It wasn't perfect. It took a lot of time to get back to normal. But now I can, for the most part, swallow food. So I come home and I have a walker, like a really cool walker. It just needs some flames painted on it. That would have made it a lot better. But yeah, I have a walker to walk around. And my girlfriend wants to come see me, so she comes over and says, "Hey, what's up?" and sees me in my little fragile state. Now I'm home, and Mom and Dad are taking care of me for the most part, making food and all that. A coworker of my mom's at her work gives her, I think it was like $300 to give to me so that I could, I don't know, he said like, he just wanted to give me money because he's been going through it and he needs some money. So he gave me like $300, and I used that money to buy a whole collection of like physical therapy tools, and they look like baby toys. They're like these colorful like squeeze things and bar things and finger things and little play balls, and yes, I bought all that. So I appreciate him. I think his name's Michael. Hope so. I should remember the name of the man that gave me so much money. So I'm spending a few hours every day just working on physical therapy. It's kind of hard to do because you do something and not a lot happens. Like, my grip strength was so awful. It was so stupid. And I should also say, at this time, my arm is getting a little bit better. It is so slow. So leaving the rehabilitation hospital, it was stuck to my hip. I was ever so slightly able to lift it up just a little bit higher. Still not here. That took a long time, but really very, 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 very slow progress. But progress. I'm keeping at the physical therapy at home and doing what I have to do. So one day my girlfriend visits and brings me some presents and all that, and appreciate that. Reese's popcorn, if you've never had that, pretty good. The next morning, I get myself a text message. "Oh, we need to talk," from my girlfriend. And so she pulls up in front of my house, and I hobble out there like the little crippled boy I am, and she breaks up with me right there in front of my house. When it rains, it pours. Yeah, that was pretty bad. That was insult to injury. Like, kicking me when I'm down with a boot made of salt in an open wound. Kind of combining sayings there.
So yeah, that was pretty rough for reasons that didn't even make sense. So I think she just had to find a way out. Guess she didn't want to be with a little disabled guy anymore. Guess she made her choice about that. And my neighbors saw it in my front yard. They were watching. So that was even more embarrassing to have that happen. And I couldn't even look at her. And I'm obviously still I couldn't look at her because I couldn't move my neck. So was still in a lot of pain. And so she kind of said that's her decision that she's made here. And I said, all right, see you later. And I hobbled up my driveway. Saw that I had to keep going for myself, by myself. So, I am, as you can imagine, not doing great. My mental state is suffering a little bit. Been dealing with a lot of pain, paralysis, loss of sensation in the body. Just going through a lot. Just lost a 3-year relationship. And it was stacking up on me here. I was at a heck of a low point. But I knew that if I let it get to me, I would never get back my body the way I could if I could never get my body back the same way if I didn't work hard. So I knew I had to keep working at it. I couldn't let it get me down, which was very difficult. But like I said, this was very personal. I get an appointment with my nurse practitioner, and it wasn't really a great appointment. She's kind of said, yeah, you had surgery. I'm like, sure did. All right, bye. But while I was there, they had me do a little, like, not a survey, little test about, like, my emotional state. And they looked at it and they said, Colton, I think you could really benefit from talking to Terrell. I'm like, oh, who's Terrell? Terrell is our mental health counselor. I was like, okay, let's go for it. So I set up an appointment with a mental health counselor, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But after that, I needed to go see Dr. Mark Berninsky. He was the neurosurgeon that sent me out to Phoenix. Go down to his office. He kind of runs his little tests on me, and he says, oh, so it was a cavernous malformation. I'm like, yes, sir, it sure was. And you had it removed. Like, yeah, all but one. He said, okay. So we need to be monitoring that. So MRIs in amounts that we don't really know yet. So I'll get one, I think, in February. And then it could be like an MRI every 6 months, or an MRI every year, an MRI every 2 years. And to see if it's growing or bleeding a lot worse. Because then they would have to figure out a way to do a surgery to take it out. So that's again a fun thought to think about. That it's still not really over, and like all this that I've been working on, like obviously you can see I'm moving. Like it's not easy, but I am moving. I could have to do it again, and that's a really hard thing to keep in my mind. That this could just be for nothing. Like we get reset. At least I would know that I can do it once. So if I can do it once, I can do it twice. But yeah, he says I need to monitor that malformation in the brainstem. So from the neurosurgeon, thanks Barninsky, very very Polish guy, I go back to my physical therapist. Twice a week, we start working on my arm and trying to figure out how to get my arm to start working again and get my range of motion back and my strength back. So for a while, that's what I've been doing. 3 to 4 hours of physical therapy every day or so to regain my range of motion. So at this point, I'm just really focused on myself, trying not to think about all this bad stuff that's been happening and just focusing on
I'm the only one that can save myself here. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I know I have to keep working at it. That's what I do. A little bit of an editor's note really quick. I realized that I forgot to tell the story of when they took my catheter out. So let me just say, if you don't know what a catheter is, it's this like tube that they put in your urethra, goes through your body and into your bladder. It's fun, yeah. So I had this big rubber tube in me that was clearing my bladder of urine. And so a nurse says, all right, it's time to take that out of you. I'm just thinking, okay, it can't be that bad. People get catheters all the time. It can't be awful. And my entire family's in this room. And they're like, okay. She puts the gloves on. And she's like, okay, ready? And I feel a little, and I'm like, oh, okay. That was pretty quick. That was painless. And then she says, okay, here we go. I'm like, what do you mean? Okay, here we go. And then she starts going hand over hand, over hand, over hand, pulling this catheter out of me. And I wanted to cry so bad. That was so awful. The fact that she was like pulling at it like it was a rope, you know, like she just threw like a crab net out in the crab box, crab trap, those little, like what the Krusty Krab's made out of. Like she just threw that in, she was just reeling it in. Oh yeah. Like she was going for it. She was taking that thing out of me. Yeah. I wish they would have took that out before I was awake, because that was pretty traumatic. I was not ready for that. Especially because I thought the first part was it. I was like, that was quick. Painful, yeah, a little bit, but quick. But no, it was... I think they can use that as torture. Confident they could. Okay, so basically, I've been doing physical therapy for a while now. But I go to see Terrell, the mental health counselor, the therapist. You won, ladies. Colton got himself a therapist. 2 for 2 on that. So I'm waiting. They're in the waiting room, and I hear my name get called. And funny, not funny, Terrell is in a wheelchair. He also had a spinal cord injury. We start talking, and basically I kind of tell him a lot what I'm telling you. I explain the Brown-Séquard syndrome, of how strange the sensations are. And I explain it, and he says, yep, I have Brown-Séquard syndrome too. I'm like, that is crazy, because it's extremely rare, and he has it, so he's uniquely qualified to talk to me about this stuff. And I was really fortunate. We talked about our injuries, and he had a complete injury. So there's 2 types of spinal cord injuries, complete and incomplete. Complete is from the area of the injury down, nothing. There's nothing there anymore. And then incomplete is what I had. So the way Brown-Séquard syndrome works is your spinal cord makes a compromise. One side will lose movement but retain most sensation, and the other side will retain movement but lose sensation. So it makes a compromise. Anyway, I kind of just tell him what I've been going through, and he does his therapist things, and I won't say everything him and I talked about, because kind of between me and him. But yeah. We talk about how we shouldn't confuse ignorance with malice. Like, I doubt all these people are trying to hurt me, but it's just kind of how it feels sometimes. He talks to me about how I should live in the gray now, and it basically just means have empathy, like, quite a bit, like be an empath, and just try to see from other people's points of views, and realize that if someone's looking at you because you're limping, or because you have a big scar on your neck, it's just because they're ignorant. Doesn't mean they hate you. Like how my girlfriend left me. She was just full of ignorance. She didn't see what was there, and she missed out. But it doesn't mean she was like hell-bent on hurting me. So that's one of the big things, and it's kind of hard to, you understand it, but when you're in the moment, you feel like kind of like the world's against you. We talk about how you can only control what you can control. There's a lot of things out of your control, and you just kind of got to deal with it. That's just the way life is. And so we just kind of talk just about anything. If you've ever had any impact on me, yes, I've talked about you. 100%. Yeah, he's very smart. He makes connections where I don't even recognize them. Like some people's actions and how it connects to like their past, or some people's actions after something happens, like how it actually it makes sense. We're kind of cause and effect creatures, and maybe it's not all that complicated after all. So yeah, mental health counselor. One time he actually told me I should try BetterHelp, the online therapist thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm in a podcast. I'm gonna get 10% off my first month. It's kind of funny your therapist tells you to go online for therapy. But yeah, Colton talked to a mental health counselor. He says I do pretty well because I recognize kind of what's going on, but it's just hard. It's difficult to be in the situation and wake up every morning and not really understand what's going on and just feel so disconnected from myself. That's one thing. It's a big plane. Something we talked about a lot was disassociation, and that's kind of how I dealt with all the bad things that were happening to me. It wasn't me going through it. It was just watching this poor guy go after thing after thing after thing, even though I felt all the pain and the difficulty and the sadness of it all. It was like I was watching a movie. And he says, that's going to catch up to me one day. And maybe it's starting to. But it's not easy. But I have to be ready for it. So, don't confuse ignorance with malice. And you can only control what you can control. So, I have been working on my physical health and my mental health quite a bit. Next question is, how am I doing today? Ultimately, from being someone who was paralyzed on the right side, I mean, it's better. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. I've still got quite a few problems, so let me just go through top to bottom. Still get little headaches. Headaches, they come and go, and going down a little further. My eyes, sometimes they get really tired. It's like they don't focus anymore. It's kind of strange. My swallowing is, every once in a while it'll screw with me a little bit, but not awful. My neck is in still quite a bit of pain. Yeah, it hurts. It's a lot better than it was. It was horrible pain. Now it's just like all the time. I can deal with it, but I know it's there. The incision also. Maybe I'll show some pictures of the incisions. My shoulder, my right shoulder screwed up. So apparently, like, I've known these little things as like your collarbone. It's not. It's your first rib. And so my physical therapist's like, yeah, your first rib is out of whack, and they keep trying to fix it and they can't. So he thinks there's like a nerve wrapped around my first rib that's just not doing first rib things. Weird thing with gaining sensation back, the front of my shoulder and the back of my shoulder itch. It's like there's a rash, but there's like no rash. They just like itch all the time, so bad, and nothing makes it go away. My middle back doesn't feel great, so that's kind of annoying. Oh, and how could I forget? My hand, it functions, but I can't feel it. I talked to the physical therapist, and he said it's likely they destroyed the median nerve. It's a nerve that goes like through your spine, through your arm, and it controls like most of your hand. He says that, yeah, well, they're probably screwing around inside there. They clipped a little something. Really annoying, because I'm right-handed. So, like, imagine, go sit on your hand for, like, 5 hours and go get that TV static, and then go spin your arm really fast so all the blood pools in your fingertips, and you'll get this like really sharp pain. That's how I'm feeling here. It's both painful and I can't feel it, which I know makes no sense, because like it makes no sense. Like, how could you not feel your hand but then feel pain? But it's like, it's all I can feel in this is pain. I'll never find the words to describe what this whole thing feels like. It's so strange to lose sensations in your body. Under my skin, in certain places, especially on my left side, feels like there's fiberglass under the skin. Like, if you ever touch fiberglass and you get these like sharp pins and like pinches, that's what it feels like, and it is awful. Like little bits of pressure, just ooh. Feels like there's fiberglass in your hand, or in your leg, or inside of your body. My left leg, like from my left hip all the way down my left leg, burns. Like burns. Like the worst sunburn you've ever had. That burning pain is just always there, all the time, and it's annoying as hell. So yeah, whenever I put on my socks, it like hurts. Like just touching my skin on the left side is painful. So in terms of Brown-Séquard syndromes, but the loss of sensation of temperature, I've got it back in my hand a little bit, but left side, no heat, no temperature, except that burning. So it's kind of a funny, annoying thing. Still dealing with a lot of those pains, but I can walk for the most part. I can passably walk with a very little limp. You almost couldn't tell that anything happened to me. My arm, its range of motion is my physical therapist says it's basically within normal levels, but it's just extremely weak. So I've just been working on strengthening myself, so I can take care of myself a little bit. There's still a lot of time, and I don't feel even close to normal, but I'm passable as a functioning person already after 4 months. And so I'm pretty proud of that, and I'm very grateful for all the help that I've had along the way. My family, all the nurses, the doctors, the surgeons, all the techs, and the MRI machines, everyone, physical therapists, occupational therapists, any person who was nice to me during this time. I'm very appreciative, because I needed the help. So yeah, I don't feel normal, but I look kind of normal. So what does this all mean? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out myself, because it's such a strange thing. I never thought I would have to go through something like this. But I'm going to keep working at it. I'm not going to stop my therapy at all. But I'm going to persevere. Just continue on. Just going to live my life. Tomorrow's another day. Take a deep breath and take it at face value. Some things in life are hard, some things are difficult, but it's a blessing to be given these opportunities to get stronger. And even though I hate everything that's happened to me, maybe it's going to make me a stronger person. I'm going to come out the other end stronger. So I just have to have the belief that I can take more punches than the world would ever land on me. Whatever they hit me with, I'm going to take it in stride and just keep moving forward, because this is my one life here on this earth. And even if I limp, or I can't feel my hand, or I'm in chronic pain, or if I lose sensations for the rest of my life, then you know what, that's just going to be how it is. It's going to make me feel better if I can get through my life with these handicaps. And if I can be at the same level as everyone else, then that just makes me feel like maybe I'm a stronger person than I thought, which is, that's motivating to me. I didn't really saw myself as a strong person, but if I continue with this and I can live a normal life, then I can prove to myself that, hey, you're better than you think you are. So even though I'm still dealing with problems mentally, problems physically, and an unforeseen future of it could get a lot worse, I'm going to keep going. And I have one thing to say to the world, and that's bring it on. I'm gonna keep fighting for this. Thank you for watching. If you've actually watched this entire thing, that's crazy. Don't know why you would. I'm just this little man in New Mexico. So, even though it's hard, I'm gonna keep going.